morning, Honorable Chair. I rise to report that the rule does exist. The Standing Committee can require this to commence business.
Thank you very much, my clerk. It has been reported that the quorum does exist for the Standing Committee on Public Enterprise. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Thank you so much. Let's go to the next item, individual. Good morning. I am Honorable Lamin Jesani, National Assembly Member for Burkina South, the chairman of this committee.
Good morning. I am Lamin Sise, member for Kiovest constituency, and a member of this committee too.
Good morning. I am Ibrahim Ajayati, member for Sandu, and a member of this committee.
Good morning once again. I am Ibrahim Ajayati, clerk of this committee.
Good morning, I'm Pamajan Dao, Deputy Auditor General 1.
Good morning, by Madi Sise, Director of State of Enterprises, Minister of Finance.
Good morning, I'm Mati Senjai, Principal Budget Officer, National Assembly.
Good morning, I'm Ibrahim, Communications Officer.
Good morning, I'm Ahmad Estam, Financial Controller, Electricity Nawec.
Good morning, I am Mohamed S. Fati, Financial Reporting Manager.
Good morning, my name is Mustafa Choi, Corporate Services Director, Nawec.
Good morning, my name is Tijan Williams, the Group Director for Internal Audit.
Good morning, I am Madeline Sambo, the Senior Regulatory Affairs Manager, Nawec. Good morning, I am Major, Group HR Director, Nawec.
I'm Brenda Sankare, VP Associates External Auditors.
Crispin Ray Johnson, Vice Chair of the Board.
Usman Cham, Chair of the Board of Nawec.
Nani Juara, the Managing Director Nawec.
Good morning, my name is Betty Marang, I'm the Finance Director of Nawec.
My name is Idrissa Diadio, Deputy Managing Director of Nawec.
Good morning, my name is Marlene Robert Sede, the Chief Operating Officer for the Water and Storage Business Unit.
Good morning, I'm Gode Jalo, the Group Customer Service Director, Nawec.
Honorable Abdullah Njai from Banjul Central Constituency. I'm sorry for the lateness, I'm not feeling well.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. This is by way of informing each and everyone here that we put our phones on silent, we switch it off. And I just want to inform you we are on live. The media is covering each and every one of us. This time I'm going to be dealing with the chairman of the board as the head of the team here. We speak chairman to chairman. And again, I also want to inform you are still on the oath. So that is going to continue unless if there is going to be somebody who will be responding to some of the questions that will be emerging from the members here. If that person is going to be available, we can also come and administer the oath to him.
I'm not sure what happens when issues are raised and somebody wants to interject who has not taken an oath. What happens then? Do we still have everybody around here have taken the oath?
Like previously during your presentation, people that presented took oaths. And today we are at the consideration stage where members are going to ask questions that need to be responded. It's only those on the oaths will be given that opportunity to respond, unless if somebody wants to respond to those questions, will also going to be administered with the oath here. Thank you. Thank you so much, honorable members. A representative from the Ministry of Finance, the National Audit Office, the able clerk, and we have our cameramen also here. The management of Nawec, senior management of Nawec, and the entire membership. I greet you all with morning greetings. Welcome to this particular session, the session for consideration and, if possible, adoption. First, we had all the presentation. Members are going to be allowed to ask questions to you so that you can give us adequate answers with regards to those issues that are not very clear. So we want to start the ball rolling, and I will allow my members to ask questions to you guys. My honorable chair. Thank you. Yes.
Good morning, honorable chair, committee members here present, honorable clerks, representatives from the Ministry of Finance and Audit General, and we have our principal Audit Officer, the National Assembly, management of Nawec, the chairman and all the members of the board. On Monday, we had a look at the report, financial statements from previous financial years, from 2017, 2018, 2019. And it wasn't pleasant actually listening to the report and the audit opinion that has been reflected by the audits. It wasn't pleasant at all. So, but then I have a few concerns that I want to address, if perhaps you have the answers to. Good. But my first question that I want to ask, your internal control, who appoints your internal control? The internal control for Nawec, who appoints your internal control? And subsequently, I would love to know to whom is he or she directly answerable to, before I proceed to any other one.
Good morning, honorable member. I just wanted to get some clarity. You said internal control.
Your internal control.
All your questions are directed to the board chair, and the chair will tell us who should respond if he is not in a position to respond. All your questions are meant for the board chair.
Thank you for that question. I believe I understood it as the internal auditor.
Exactly.
The internal auditor who appoints the internal auditor and who does the internal auditor reports to.
Yes.
Can you help?
Yeah, I can help. Actually, I didn't understand the question. Probably, if what chairman said is what you are trying to do, you are referring to honorable members. Are you referring to internal control, or you are referring to an internal audit?
The internal audit.
Okay, internal audit.
Exactly.
Yes, the internal audit auditor is appointed by the board of directors. Administratively, answerable to the managing director, but in terms of governance structure, the board is the internal auditor reports.
What is the qualification of your internal audit?
Well, if you don't mind, he has to also take an oath, but I know he is a certified chartered accountant. He has long years of experience in auditing, and he has worked in various institutions for a number of years before being appointed at Nawec as an auditor.
How long has this or she served your institution?
If my memory serves well, it's over 5 years now.
Over 5 years. Good. Good. From the financial statements, the operating losses that has been reported consistently occurred from years to year. In 2017, 2018 to 2019, we can see the consistency of loss of operating cost. And probably, which might lead to borrowing for you to actually fund your operations. So I don't know what leads to those operating losses for frequent years. In fact, it repeats itself year in, year out for the institution.
That's a complex and a lot of issues that will contribute to that. But I will let the finance controller, finance director, to give you an insight as to what are the possible causes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make it clear that even though I participated in finalizing this document, I was appointed the finance director in November. I started in December 2020. So whatever I'm saying here is theoretical. But Nawec's operations is funded 3 ways. Either there's borrowing to finance it, or the government shoots in capital, or you increase the tariff, so the tariff that people pay. Projects come to Nawec either by grant or loans from the Ministry of Finance, and those are used basically to finance projects, so building power plants, building water treatment plants, or whatever. The income that Nawec uses to fund its operations primarily comes from the tariff. The last review of the tariff was in 2014. We all know from 2014 to date, and during the years of the review right now, significant changes have happened to the cost structures and prices. If there's no mechanism to ensure that the price is reflected in the tariff, then you have a problem of deficit year after year after year. That is one possible cause of it. So if you had a mechanism, ideally you should have said, this is my cost, and this is the tariff I need to be able to operate with profit or to balance, and the government either decides to raise the tariffs, or if there's no political will, the government will decide to shoot in the difference. So these are the possible explanations. As I said, tariff was last reviewed in 2014. So the NEM has not been reviewed yet. So without an assessment to see if the cost is being covered, because the tariff that we pay as consumers is supposed to be cost reflective. Goes without saying that the last review was done in 2014. Thereafter, especially with the inflation and the price changes that we are seeing subsequently. So that's a possible answer.
Honorable, if you don't mind, I can also ask something to that. Yes, it is true, and I have been around for a long time working with this company. What you just stated is one of the major issues that this company continues to grapple with. We are operating with a tariff that is not cost effective. On a normal circumstance, in a tariff structure, when cost in terms of your input changes, particularly a major cost now is fuel. It has been our major problem in the past because these are products that are but the prices are beyond our control because these are determined at the international market. So most of the time, year after year, the prices of fuel continues to increase, but it's not reflected in our tariff. And fuel-related cost is almost about 55% of our cost. So you can imagine that whilst the prices are increasing, our tariff continues to be stagnant, and we are expected to also deliver the service as the people might expect us to deliver. So there's a lot of issues around the tariff, but that's not only a problem. In general, our infrastructure has aged over time. So and all infrastructure, both in terms of generation, transmission and distribution, it is obvious that our expenditure will increase in maintaining those all infrastructure. Because the maintenance cost keeps going up on a daily basis. Even though the cost is going up, the efficiencies continue to go down. That's why for the past few years, we've been seeing losses year after year. And this, we are not anticipating to get out of it anytime soon, because even this year, 2022, the problems have been compounded. Not only because of COVID, but also because of the Russian-Ukrainian war. By September of this year, last year, the fuel prices were almost about 450 per metric ton. Right now, we have been charged almost about 650 or 660 something per metric ton. In addition to that, handling charges have also gone up, and which is now being charged to us. We are buying electricity from IPPs, the car power in particular, for example, and their major input is fuel, just like Nawec. When the prices goes up, they increase their tariff accordingly. But this is not also reflected on the tariff of Nawec that we charge to our consumers. So there are a lot of other challenges. We have seen that even in terms of freight costs, it has significantly increased. But this is not reflected in our tariff. Cost of spare parts have gone up. It's not reflected in our tariffs. So there are a host of issues. So in as much as we are trying to meet the expectations of the people, these are some of the challenges that we continue to grapple with. In addition, some of the macroeconomic issues, even local. One, in terms of forex availability. For many years, we have been experiencing a lot of foreign exchange losses. And all these are factors that are affecting the company every year. So, in as much as we want to be financially viable, which is the main objective and the essence of what we are doing right now, for the past years, it has been very difficult for us to achieve that. And it's going to take time for us to be financially viable if we don't have a possibility of tariff or the necessary intervention from government to be able to close the gap. Because if, for example, our cost is higher than our tariff, there is a gap. So that gap needs to be filled. So if it is not filled, obviously, we will be left with no option but to resort to borrowing. And we all know borrowing cost in this country is also very expensive. It is very prohibitive. And for 2017, 2018, we had to resort to that in particular. Things got a little bit much better in 2019, but that was a major problem. Thank you.
Thank you. I think on Monday, Mr. Chairman, Monday I told you that we need to look at the historicity of this data. Until what we are dealing with, for example, 2017, has to do with the government interference into the running of Nawec. And as a result, we came out in a crisis mode. Generators that were not new generators were given to us, and it really influenced the cost of operation very seriously. when government interference gets into the way, now that it's forced to do certain things that are not within the plans that have been done there. They are not technically feasible. So until 2017, when government started helping us and stopped interfering with whatever we're doing, then we are now looking at possibilities of even controlling some of this that we are coming. Remember, we are dealing with spare parts that are not available in this country, and we have to look for a foreign exchange to be able to deal with those things. So that's why I said it's a very complex way of looking at Nawec, and we need to look at it from that angle. Thank you.
Managing Director or the Chair of the Board, the Managing Director highlighted that one of the major issues that leads to the loss of operating costs year in, year out, and was the increase in the fuel and other issues that he has highlighted. But this happened in 2017, and the audit opinion highlighted them. It has never been addressed, and it has been forwarded to 2018. It has not been addressed and forwarded to 2019. So to me, the office is reluctant to ensure that the loss of operating costs stopped or minimized. Since the audit opinion made an observation that this is a serious issue, and they give recommendations to ensure that all those issues have been addressed. Frequent meeting by the audit department, periodical, audit exercises and reporting. And if you look at the observation by the auditor and the status of implementation, and most of these things are not implemented. And you come down to the management response to that. We have a similar response, continuously, a similar response given to all these issues that they have not been implemented. Frequently you find internal audit problem. Even well before a finance director reads or rates management response, he will say another internal control problem. Another internal control issue. That cannot be an excuse for a state institution which is supposed to generate revenue for the country. But instead, you will make losses and get back to the central government to bail you, to dig national coffers and bail you, to the detriment of the Gambian people. Yes, of course. Because we can see that according to the report, that 77.5% of your loan, if I am right, you put me through. 77.5% of the loan was bailed by the central government. Am I correct?
75%, I think so.
75% of the loan.
That's correct. 75%. That's correct.
We inherited $9 billion.
Yes.
$1 billion. And government in 2017 up to 2019 stepped out to help us pay the 75%, and we are left with $2 billion to deal with. How that $9 billion was created was everybody's knowledge about the previous regime that they have plundered Nawec as a cash cow. So we are dealing with a very difficult situation, and we are now improving on it, despite all what we have seen in those kind of things. Granted, the controlled environment We have taken notice of it since we came in on the board in 2019 to make sure that there is a robust control environment to be able to deal with the resources that we have, the scarce resources we have. And our ambition is to run away from asking government to bail us out. But we have no choice, but we have to decide because our directors are aging, our grid is completely archaic, and we are dealing with this very difficult situation. That's why you are seeing all along with these losses and all this. And setting prices, Honorable, is a political issue. And for a long time, prices have not gone up. And we depend only on our income. That's the sale of electricity. If we are asked to expand to a certain country, a certain part of the country, where people will take only one bulb of electricity, we cannot recover the cost of operations. But the social cost has to be there. We need to figure that out. Because people have the right to these amenities. So if you have anything to add,
yeah, I think this is well said. Honorable Member from here, there's a history to the report that we are going to right now. The chairman had really highlighted some of those, particularly the political interference in the past. That was a major problem. We were forced to take over certain investments that are not commercially viable. But for the fact that government had a social contract with the Gambian people, some of those responsibilities are shifted on Nawec to take over some of those investments, and we were forced to also enter into certain investments. If it is meant for financial prudence, we will not have gone into those investments. But as Chairman said, government also has a responsibility to the citizenry. And Nawec is a government entity, 100% by Gambia government. We are set up to be able to provide services on behalf of the Gambia government. So some of the activities that we have undertaken, if it is for a private entity, it's going to be no go area. I'll give you some practical examples. Some of the generators that were installed at Brikama 3, one of our power plants. These were second-hand generators. Probably I can say that were even older than myself. They were brought almost like scraps, purchased through funds contracted from Social Security. Our fund, all of us, for that matter. And this was through a directive that we had no control over. And over the years, we were forced to pay for that loan that was contracted from Social Security to procure those scrap generators through a private player who has a business interest and who was also given this, the responsibility to also have full control of the management of Nawec. He was responsible for the IPP that was a backup. At the same time, he was given full management control of Nawec. All procurement issues, financial management issues were under his directive. The MDs at the time had no control over what he does. They were just mere ceremonial managing directors. As far as the IPP and the what is called the proprietor at the time was, because he was given full control of Nawec also to manage. At the same time, he has a business interest in Nawec. So monies were being borrowed, and at the same time, the same what is called IPP owner and the one who was given the responsibility to manage Nawec was the one also supplying Nawec fuel with exclusivity for more than 5 years or plus. And he fixed the prices as he saw it. We were forced to be borrowing money, sometimes over $300 million at a go from a particular bank, just to be able to meet the obligations to that particular supply. So these were some of the things that we had to go through. And there were times that we even have to issue post-dated checks
to meet some of our obligations. It was not an easy, time for us at all. And we are still expected to deliver for the Gambian people. That was the toughest period. And that has also created some of these bad lucks that we have all been experienced, to the extent that we could not do what we are supposed to do because there were a lot of interference. Controls were weakened simply because we had no time to focus on those things that matters, but rather our focus was on operations. These were times that when power goes off, you go to mile 2. So you don't think about some of those, soft things. The issue was only on operation. That was the focus of management at the time. And we couldn't blame management at the time because the situation wasn't right. So these are some of the cumulative problems that we carried over the years. And now we have realized this. From 2017 to 2018, we have embarked on a reform agenda for the utility. And this is very clear. And we were able to come up with plans. We developed a roadmap. And now we have developed even a master plan for the sector. And we have attracted donor support for the fact that they have seen that the utility is now reforming. And there's less government interference now. And that's why we have now introduced systems that will ensure there is proper accountability and transparency. Just to make sure the weaknesses that we have all realized in the past are not repeated going forward. So we are on that trajectory. It is unfortunate that this is the situation. It should not be. This company can be financially viable, no doubt about that. We believe and we think it can be possible. But it is the collective responsibility not only for the utility, but also for government to support us in that drive. And we have seen that. Government was able to negotiate a lot of donor support to be able to improve the infrastructure, to upgrade the infrastructure, to also expand network countrywide. That's why we have this ambitious target to provide universal access for our people by 2025. And we are on the right trajectory right now. But the history is still haunting us as we speak today. And let me tell you, 2022, the challenges are still there. They are still there. I can tell you for fact that our costs for most of the items have gone up above 35%. And this is still not reflected on our tariff. How on earth are we going to make profits? It's impossible. Thank you.
Mr. Chair from the board, history has been explained over and over has been the reason for some of these challenges that you face. I don't think we can continue to blame history from 2017 to date for taking care of some of national issues. 2017 to date, we have history that is haunting us from 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. We can't address them. We still continue to blame history. I want to know how much is the outstanding debt of Nawec right now, and to which institutions, to which banks?
Thank you. I think we need to have a good understanding of what we are dealing with. We are not in the 2022 year or 2020 or 2021. We are dealing with 17, 18, and 19. And that's the tricky part of it. We are talking about history, and we have to talk about history, because history is what is helping us now to understand why Nawec is what it is. It has been a broken organization, a company, and we were not running it on business line. So as a result, we have these issues that you are raising now. When we come down to 2020, 2021, you can see the light that we are trying to bring up in terms of the issues. About the debt, what we have now, I think we'll ask the finance controller to explain this story. Just to give you.
Finance controller is here.
Finance director.
I'm mistaken.
I am old now.
Sometimes, yes. So I don't have the report for 2020 in front of me, so I can only give you at the top of my head. But I'm quite clear about the borrowers that we have. We only have 2 borrowers. We have the Islamic Development Bank through the ITFC facility, which is contracted to the government of the Gambia. And we have unlended loans from the government of the Gambia to the Ministry of Finance. There are 7 of those. So they spoke about the restructuring in 2019, where 75% of the loans was taken off by the government. The remaining 25% was unlended to us. So government is the borrower with the external debtors, and then there's a contract between government and Nawec. So government finances those loans, and Nawec repays the government at the same terms as they have with the debtors. So right now, the long-term borrowers, I would say the borrowers apart from the creditors are the ITFC, which is the facility we use to finance our HFO, the heavy fuel that runs the generators. That's the loan we have, facility, and then we have 7 loans with owed to the Ministry of Finance. It is, I just want to estimate, around the tune of $5 billion, if I estimate correctly. But majority is to the government.
I want the exact figure.
Yeah, I cannot give you an exact figure because I wasn't prepared to give you 2022 figures. So I can only give you estimates. If I was coming here to discuss 2022, I would have brought my records with me.
And
I don't want to tell you.
What's the approximation?
I said around $5 billion.
Around $5 billion.
Yes. And that is the loan. These are USD loans, so those amounts change based on the exchange rate. But there are 2 lenders, so the important part. It is the ITFC, which is a 12-month revolving facility. So every year we have to pay off what we owed last year to be able to draw it. And then we owe the government the rest of the loans. They have contracted for projects.
My final concern.
Honorable, before your final concern, let me just comment on my chairman also one more. You will see when we come here next time, the reports that will be coming, local borrowing on our bank have been under control. In the past, almost all the banks, we were dealing with about 14 banks in this country for a very good reason at the time. Because all of us knew at the time that cash flow was a major problem for us. And we had all the banks that were here, almost about 14 accounts we opened. Simply one, if we borrow from this bank and we know that we are highly indebted there, then we go to the other one. That was what we were doing, just to make sure we meet the expectations of the government of the day at the time, and just to make sure we keep those engines running. Of course, when it comes to debt payment, we were not even thinking, government was not even thinking about that. To say for most of the time, we were even defaulted on the ITFC facility that we were government contracted on our behalf. And in fact, there were instances where, because of our default, the entire portfolio in the country for all IDB supported banks were suspended, more than twice. I witnessed that. So, but going forward, we are able to meet our obligations under that. In fact, most of the time now, we are paid in advance, even before the due date. And because we have controlled our expenditure, at the same time, local borrowing is almost zero now. There is no bank here today that will come and say, Nawec is owing them this much. Even on our overdraft, as you can bear witness, I don't think we even have an overdraft facility right now. We don't. So going forward, we are fully aware of our obligations and making sure we have to be responsible enough as an institution to be financially viable. Our dependence on government cannot continue because we know government itself has very tight monetary situation and we cannot continue to depend on them. But be rest assured that the history must be told. We have to, because that will help us to also explain some of the things that we are doing to correct that history. And this is some of the actions that we are taking. And in terms of internal control, a lot is being done right now. We have introduced a new system which is digitized completely. Most of our activities are now digitized. Some of the things that we were not having control over are now being taken care of. Most of the processes are now, automated. So be rest assured that going forward, things will never be the same. Thank you.
Mr. Mr. Chairman, it looks like there's some difficulty in understanding what we are doing today. Because I thought we are dealing with 2017, 2018, 2019. And there is this tendency of going out to say what is happening now. And that's not the report that we are here with. The issue is we have to deal with the history because of the organization up to 2019 is dealing with those interest payments and all these other things. Some of these loans that have been contracted, how much we have been paying in terms of even debt servicing, all those things. So I would ask humbly that if we can limit our discussion to 2017, 2018, 2019, that would help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairman. I call you honorable because of the seniority of the ex-official. Interestingly, like we are dealing with 2017 to 2019. I should keep on claiming that these are bad laws, and it's, as far as we are also concerned, almost all the PEs are from 2020 onwards. So it's only Nawec that has this bad law, and this was not presented. So currently, as far as we are dealing with, the questions are going to be limited on this. But also, we also need to know the current status. As you are rightly saying, there are significant improvements, and we need to know those things also. Sometimes those things come in our discussion as at what stage are you in terms of preparedness. Since we have a functional board now, and that are trying to regulate a lot of things, we are all part of the system. I know much attention has been put on Nawec, especially in the 5th legislative. From 2017 onwards, a lot of attention has been done on Nawec. Since you are indebted over 9 billion, the Ministry of Finance really played a key role. So, but we will get there. Don't mind the type of questions that we ask, but I know we are dealing with these 3 years, but still we also want to know your status quo with regards to the current situation. Go ahead.
That's what I agree with, but I just wanted to flag that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Finance Director, we need to provide us with the exact amount of debt and those information. We need to provide us with that, the exact amount of debt and to which institution later. We want to have that. And to the managing director, and for you to provide us with your reform agenda, and the mechanisms put in place to ensure that you realize your objective and the meetings and all others that concerns the reform agenda. We want to have a look at them and the progress of that reform agenda. We want to have a look at that. All right, and finally, for me, we're looking at the independent audit report. I want to get to disclaimer of opinion straight. Good. Under it, at the place of revenue, the point of revenue, if you have the report with you, revenue, which says, Note 2 of the financial statement detailed total revenue of 3.8 billion. 3.8 billion. Of this amount, 3.6 billion related to revenue from building both electricity and water services. And under it, it says we also encountered limitation in obtaining adequate supporting evidences for revenue relating to a Nawec service connection. Looking at the amount that is involved in that, it says amounting to 10.6 million included in service connection income of 759 million under Note 3 of the financial statement. Note 2 of the financial statement. Institution limiting under the disclaimer they don't have access to information that can qualify this amount of fund or to justify it that has been used in this service or in this project. This is serious. If they have information but it wasn't sufficient, but they don't have access to information, these documents, clear documents that can justify, that can, suggest fair play as far as this connection is concerned. This was a serious one. And I want to know why don't they have access to this information? And if you can provide us with those figures. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I will ask the director to comment. But before that, I just want to call your attention to the fact that if we treat Nawec as a normal business concern, you can ask these kind of questions to say, where are the documents? In Nawec, where people are dismissed at will, and key people for that matter, without even doing any proper handing over, some are sent to mile 2. When the documents are so complex, when you come back in the years of stability, do you expect to find those documents to be able to provide those kind of things? This is just to give you an understanding of the kind of chaos that was in this institution.